This is the Treasure Island Baseball Network.
It's time to check in with your Minnesota Twins. Going inside the front office, the clubhouse, the minor leagues, the spotlight is on your team. Welcome to Inside Twins.
This is episode 3 of Inside Twins. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Hello, everyone. I'm John Vitas here inside our Treasure Island Baseball Network studios. Here inside Target Field, we have got a fun show for you today. It's the start of the most fun week of the offseason if you're a Twins fan. Tomorrow and Thursday, Twins Winter Caravan gets going, which means Twins players and personnel come to you all around Twins territory. So if you live in Duluth, Rochester, Mankato, Moorhead, Welch, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota, or Northwood, Iowa, be sure to check out twins.com to find out where you can link up with your favorite Twins who'll be making the rounds over the next couple of days. And then, of course, Friday and Saturday, TwinsFest gets going right here at Target Field. Tickets still available on twins.com/TwinsFest. We'll host the TwinsFest live event on Friday night. And then, of course, the main event on Saturday with autographs, clinics, live interviews with all your favorite players. And so we hope we see you out here at Target Field this weekend. Well, we mentioned today is episode 3. We kicked things off a couple of weeks ago with Derek Shelton and Chris Atterbury. Last week, Gino was able to sit down with Royce Lewis. And today, we are super excited to catch up with Twins catcher Ryan Jeffers, who joins us live from North Carolina. Ryan, thanks for joining us. And first and foremost, how has your first offseason with 2 kids been?
I can't hear a thing.
We're still working on Ryan's audio. Well, that will be
working great before we started.
All right, we're going to get working on that here for Ryan. But we'll get through a few topics with him today, starting with his offseason. We're going to get into the new manager, Derek Shelton, of course, introduced earlier this offseason, our first guest here on Inside Twins. Really excited to ask Ryan about his meeting with Shelty, as well as some of the assistant coaches who have been introduced over the last few weeks with all of the new faces on that staff. We're going to get to meet some of them this weekend at Twins Fest. Looking forward to that. And of course, Ryan's coming off a big offensive season as well. Great numbers kind of under the hood when you talk about approach. So we're going to get into that with him as we hope to bring him in here on our live program. We're going to get into the final week of the starting pitchers that he was able to catch in September, bringing in a lot of different arms at the trade deadline that made a huge impact, including Mick Abel, Taj Bradley, some of the bigger names for the Twins that they were able to acquire at the deadline. And we're going to play Cardack as we always do as well. We're going to reveal the backs of baseball cards. Ryan will try and guess who it is. Usually there's some sort of correlation to someone that Ryan knows, either a teammate or someone he used to play with. There's usually a historical twist to it as well. So we're trying to get Ryan back online here where he can hopefully hear us and we can hear him, and we'll get the show going.
Got it.
Can you hear us, Ryan?
I can hear you.
Beautiful. All right, let's get it going then. Thanks for joining us. The first question, which we already asked, we're going to ask again. How's your first offseason been with 2 kids at home?
It's been good. It's been good. You know, once you have one kid, you kind of flip into that fatherhood role, the dad role. So adding another one in the mix was fun. It's fun to see our now almost 4-year-old kind of interact with him. He's almost 6 months old, so he's getting more personality every day. It keeps me busy. It keeps my wife even busier. But it's been really fun.
Plenty of diapers, I assume.
Plenty.
Yep, I can relate to that. Became a father this offseason too. So lots to do off the field for you. But I would assume this time of the year is when baseball really ramps up. What's the offseason schedule look like in the month of January? I assume you've got facilities you can use out in North Carolina.
Yeah, you know, once the holidays rolls around, you spend a lot of family time over Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's, and then you kind of hit January 1 and it starts getting pretty heavy into the baseball. You know, you're starting to pick up your workload. You're starting to prepare for spring training. You're increasing not only the days that you go, but also the intensity of the skill that you're, say, the fastball that you're hitting on the machine, whatever. You know, you're starting to make it harder and harder as you prep for starting to see live pitching. You know, I think some of the pitchers down here throwing some lives next week. So you just slowly start building, and then Twins Fest hits, and the season's upon you in no time.
Yeah, Twins Fest is always a good indication that the season's right around the corner. Any names that you've worked out with this offseason that the fans may know? Any other big leaguers in your area?
We don't have a lot. I haven't been around a ton of big leaguers. There's a good amount of guys that are in pro ball at my school that I'm around a lot. I work out with our top prospect Walker Jenkins every morning. He's down here. He's from this area. So past 3 years now, I think it's our third off season working out together. At least in the gym, he swings by the cages once in a while. He's gotten married. He's been on a honeymoon. He's had a busy off season. But it's fun to work out with him, and then kind of he keeps me young. That's for sure.
Yeah, what stands out about the work he's doing? I'm sure he's not like a typical prospect with the pedigree he comes with.
Yeah, I always say like the baseball skill, the everything he does physically is off the charts. But it's not often that is also matched with like the intangibles of just the super hard worker, just a really good kid. So there's a lot to be excited about in Walker.
Yeah, and he'll be here at Twins Fest as well. Walker Jenkins joining Ryan and a whole bunch of Twins here this weekend. Of course, the big news this offseason back in the fall was the change at the manager spot. Derek Shelton coming in. Of course, he has a background with the Twins before his tenure in Pittsburgh. He was on the staff in the Twins player development chain. I know you've had a chance to sit down and chat with Shelty. What stood out about your meeting?
Yeah, I'm really excited. He seems like a guy that us as players are really going to be able to relate to. He seems like he's going to be able to step in the locker room and not only command the room, but also feel like he fits in. I haven't been around a ton of managers, but you can kind of feel like there's different vibes that each guy gives off. That's just everybody in general. And he definitely, I feel like he's going to be hard. He's going to be hard on us. He's going to push us to be the best. But he's also going to be chill and just be able to step back from the baseball side of things and associate with you and relate to you as a person and as a player and as just one of the guys in the locker room.
And of course, his first order of business was putting together his staff. And so you'll have a new hitting coach this year and two new bench coaches, guys from different organizations that are joining a few holdovers from last year's Twins staff. I know you've had a chance to talk to your new hitting coach and some of the new coaches on the staff as well. What stands out about your time with them and what they're going to bring to the Twins this year?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think there's definitely a new energy. And with all this being said, I love the group that we had last year. The staff, the coaches were all awesome. But I'm excited to kind of do something new. Have a new energy around the team. There's, we're going to be so young. We're going to have such a young core that it's good to kind of match that with a lot of young, energetic coaches. There's a lot of good mix between old school, new school. Hard nose, a guy that will give you a hug if you need it. There's a lot of good mix that will that I hope and I think will play really well.
Yeah, looking forward to catching up with all those new coaches, Twins Fest, and throughout spring training and the regular season. Some new players that you'll be alongside this year as well. Twins have made a few moves on the waiver wire, announced the signing of Josh Bell a few weeks ago, and it's been reported the Twins are bringing in Victor Caratini to join you in the catcher's room as well. That's not official yet, but assuming that does cross the finish line, what sort of communication have you had with the staff about how adding another veteran like Victor will just help the Twins be stronger and win more games?
Yeah, before all that happened, I had conversations with, hey, this might happen, and just reassuring me, like, my role as the guy who's going to catch 100+ games is not going to change. I'm excited to go back there and really get a full season in. I've throughout my career, I've split time with a lot of guys, and I'm excited to, catch a full workload and then also be joined by a guy who's been in the game for 8+ years and has a lot of experience and won a lot of games and been with some organizations that have played really, really good baseball in Victor and see what type of knowledge and information he has just to help us be a better team.
Yeah, and another switch hitter, just like Josh Bell. So some more, lefty-righty advantages and guys with a lot of good experience and track record. In spite of the Twins' record last year, you had a really nice season. Career best walk rate, career best strikeout rate. You went from having a chase rate in the 14th percentile in 2024 to the 73rd percentile. So from bottom third of the league to top third of the league. That's a big step to make in just 1 year. And of course, being the primary catcher, you have a whole list of responsibilities every day. How are you able to make those improvements to your approach over the course of a long major league season?
Yeah, I think we really had a focus on, simplifying things down last season, really trying to calm things down, find the barrel more often, take my walks, raise my on base. And we did that. At the end of the day, I held really good stats with not hitting a lot of homers, and I'm a guy that I truly believe I can be a 20+ guy every year. And I think everybody knows I have that in the tank from a power perspective. But then if I'm able to match that with the ability to get on base at a good clip, like I did last year, it's going to set me up really well to be able to help the team win a lot of games.
So my next question was about your goal for this year, but it sounds like it's an attempt to merge the approach with the power you've shown in the past.
Lost the vote. Lost all the sound again.
Hopefully you can hear us. We may have to reboot Ryan one more time here, but some of the great footage there that you saw from Twins TV throughout the season, Ryan showing off some major power on some of his swings throughout the year. You saw that Fenway Park homer, the upper deck shot here at Target Field, but the contact really came to fruition for him. A lot of two-strike approach going the other way as we bring him back in. Can you hear me now, Ryan?
Got you now. Yep. I don't know what's going on.
No worries. No, you did a great job explaining last year's offensive season.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you the next step for 2026, and I would imagine it's merging the great approach from last year with the power that is in there.
Yeah, I hit 21 homers in 24, and there's no doubt in my head that I have that in me. Like there's no question mark in my head that I can do 20+, especially as my workload increases, I get more at bats that I can do that. So really melding that and putting that together with the on base ability that I found last year. And that was not something that felt like a fluke. It was kind of a mechanical change to help me see the ball longer, to be able to use more of the field. So that's something that I don't feel like is going to go away. I think it's something that really is going to stick. And then adding some homers on top of that, and blending those two seasons is going to be super cool going forward.
Of course, a huge role for you being the team's primary catcher is getting to handle the pitching staff, and there were a lot of changes to the staff over the course of last year. One of the parts that makes Twins fans optimistic for this year is the young starting pitchers that we got a glimpse of, particularly that last week of the season, the last 6 games, the road trip to Texas and Philly, dominant starts across the rotation from some of the younger guys. How often do you think back to that last week, and what do you think it was about that final start of the year for all those guys that allowed them to start to really show that potential that the Twins are hoping to get out of them this year?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are excited for the opportunity they have, but also understand the kind of the depth that we do have in the young pitching department, and that they got to go out there and grab their spot and hold on to it. There's going to be a competition. They're going to be driving each other. They're going to be making each other better. And that's super important. We need all of those guys. We need as much starting pitching depth as we can get, and all those guys are going to play a super important role in what we do. But at the end of the day, there's going to be only 3 spots behind Joe and Pablo in the rotation. So 3 of them got to grab those spots. And I think at the end of the year this year, they were say, hey, this is my last time to show it off.
I wanted to ask you about one of those guys in particular, Mick Abel, that second to last game of the year, 9 strikeouts over 6 innings in Philadelphia. That was against his former team, and you caught that game. That outing kind of came out of nowhere when you look at the rest of his outings in the major leagues last year. What did he do in that outing, and how do you think he captures that to maybe be a consistent contributor in the rotation this year?
Yeah, he's got some of the best stuff that I've caught. It's really impressive, just the sheer stuff that he has. He's still young. I think he's working through a lot of the things that a lot of young pitchers have to work through, especially once you get to the big leagues. The separation between the minors and the big leagues has never been greater. But at the end of the day, you can't teach the type of stuff that he has. He's going to be able to punch out a ton of guys And then him being able to add the feel and the command of where like he did in that last start. He has the ability to be a top pitcher in this game with the sheer stuff that he has.
One final topic for you here in the first segment of our show today. Next year, or I should say this year, now going into 2026, one of the big topics that'll be discussed, analyzed over the first few months of the season will be the transition to the ABS challenges. Automated ball strike system will be in place as a way to kind of check the umpires. The umpires will still be back there calling balls and strikes as they always have, but now each team will get 2 challenges, and the challenges can only come from the hitter, the pitcher, or the catcher. And historically, this has been tested out in the minor leagues, and the catchers have always had the most success in terms of winning challenges. That's another important responsibility that you're going to have this season. Have you had any discussions with the staff yet on the strategy of when to challenge, kind of the risk and reward of, hey, this might be an egregious pitch, but we're just going to let it go so that we're not risking losing one of those 2 precious challenges?
No, I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be, first off, we're going to sit down, I'm sure, in spring training and run through all of these, the probabilities, get probably deep in the weeds of the analytics and the statistics of good challenges, bad challenges, when to challenge, when not to challenge. And we'll get deep into the strategy in spring training. But, I think it's probably going to be something like, hey, if you're going to be right, then challenge it, whether it's the first inning or the third inning, whatever it is, if you think you can win a challenge, go and win a challenge. That can flip counts, that can change ABs, that can change innings, and ultimately it can change a game. So having that ability, and it's not necessarily to challenge the umpires. The umpires they do a really, for how hard their job is, they're pretty good. There's an occasional guy out there that has a bad game. But, it's meant to flip the clear misses, the clear strikes that are called balls, the clear ball that are called strikes. The edge pitches, those are going to be the coin flip, and those are going to be the ones that you have to kind of be careful challenging early on, maybe to save some of them. But I think it's going to be like when you're challenging calls on the bases. I think managers are willing to go after it if they believe that they've got the right answer.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're looking forward to it. I had a chance to watch the challenges in the minor leagues for a couple of seasons, and I know some of the fans like the arguing or the cat and mouse game with the manager and the umpires going back and forth. I can promise them there's still going to be some arguments because a lot of the managers will come out and argue how long it took for the player to challenge, because it's a kind of the umpire's discretion on 2 or 3 seconds before you tap the helmet or the hat before you've lost the opportunity to challenge. So it'll still be interesting on how that's adjudicated and all the different nuances to the system. We're looking forward to it. We're going to take our first break, and then we're going to come back with Ryan Jeffers in segment 2 and play some Cardack here on your home for Twins baseball. John Vitas here inside Target Field. Ryan Jeffers, our guest today on Inside Twins, joining us from his home in North Carolina. Of course, Ryan will be here in Minnesota by the end of the week for Twins Fest, and getting ready to play Cardack with Ryan Jeffers, which is our tradition here on the offseason edition of Inside Twins. We've got 3 baseball cards that we have prepared for him, usually someone with 1 or 2 degrees of separation from Ryan, or at least someone he's familiar with. So we're going to get into that here in just a moment. There's always a historical aspect to it as well, and always one teammate usually sprinkled in, which hopefully will be the easiest one for Ryan as we're getting him back on the line here for segment 2 of Inside Twins.
Really not liking us.
All right,
today.
let's get to it. Ryan, you can hear us?
I got you.
All right, card number 1. We will gradually reveal the clues. It is a Twins teammate. Same draft class as yourself.
How quickly do you want me to say it?
If you know it, shout it out.
All right, it's Cole Sands.
That's right. His first name is Bryson, legally, but we know him as Cole Sands. As you see the facts with him, he's got a Team USA background. Of course, the World Baseball Classic coming up in just a couple of months. And there you see the numbers with the Twins over the last 4 years, better than 70 innings out of the bullpen the last 2 seasons. So a quick 1-for-1, nicely played. Now you see his Team USA card. That was when he was a teenager. Pretty much looks the same now. So we'll go on to card 2 here. These next 2 will not be Twins teammates of Ryan Jeffers, so maybe a little bit tougher. First clue, this person played at Florida State the same 3 years as Cole Sands.
I have a general idea. I'm gonna let it go a couple more, but
okay. Clue number 2.
Yep, I was right.
Platinum. Do you know it?
Yeah, it's Cal. That's Cal Raleigh.
Ryan's 2 for 2. Yeah. Cal Raleigh, runner-up in AL MVP this year. There you see the numbers led the league in homers, RBIs, set the single-season record for a switch hitter and for a catcher.
Yep.
And he had a 4-game series here at Target Field and drew a lot of attention and kind of setting the standard right now for backstops, fair to say?
Yeah. No, I mean, the season he had last year was outrageous. You know, he's always been a guy that has slugged, but slugging at the clip of 60 homers is pretty impressive.
And another North Carolina guy as well.
I know him and Zebby are from the same place.
Yeah, same high school, Zebby Matthews and Cal Raleigh. So some Raleigh ties to the Twins for sure. All right, our final card here. We're throwing it back a little bit with this one. Not a current player, and he has won more World Series championships than anyone in baseball history. Any guesses just off of that?
I'm not a good baseball history person. So
let's go to our next clue then. Is a Yankee, played back in the 50s.
I'm going to guess just because of the relation to me. Let's go with Yogi Berra.
That is correct. Another catcher. And Ryan, why don't you explain the connection to you?
Yeah, we got a dog, a Labradoodle in 2019 maybe. And we named him Yogi after Yogi Berra.
And there you have it. There is the baseball version of Yogi right there. Great Topps card. And how's Yogi doing at home?
He's great. He's getting, he's only 6, but he acts like a 10-year-old just laying around all day. But it's great. He travels with us everywhere, and he loves the life on the road, you know?
That's awesome. Well, Ryan, 3 for 3. Well done.
Thank you. You know, you were tossing up little softballs there. Those are easy.
I know. We do have to add to the difficulty a little bit as we go here. Royce was pretty smooth last week with those also. So we have fun with it. Hopefully you did as well. And we're going to take one last final break and come back with some questions from you, the fans. So one last chance to drop a question in the chat for Ryan, and we'll get to those questions when we come back here on your home for Twins Baseball. John Vitas bringing you back into Inside Twins one final time here on this Tuesday. Ryan Jeffers is our guest. You know, Ryan, we're all preparing for Twins Fest. You go through all the different stations, all the questions. We love the non-baseball questions. We're crafting those for 2026 as we speak. One of the ones that came up last year as we were looking through kind of the transcripts of those, you talked a lot about how you've always been a strong student when it comes to math and how you would consider engineering if baseball wasn't obviously the path you ended up with. I would imagine as a catcher in Major League Baseball that the numbers background helps when you're calling a game and calling pitches. How much of that spreadsheet that you look at before the game is in your head pitch to pitch? Yeah,
you know, I'm not sure it's the math aspect that makes me good at calling a game, but I think the common sense, the ability to think fast, the ability to retain information is really impactful and important to what I do. You know, I'm not back there doing any geometry or algebra to figure out what the best pitch is, but by able to thinking on my feet, thinking quick, I think definitely helps me behind the plate.
All right, let's get to some fan questions. We've had folks submitting questions on all 3 platforms. Let's start with MN Twins Rachel. Do you have any fun bat designs you're thinking of using this year for Players Weekend? Great question.
I wonder where the thought for that one came from.
I love the corn bat. I know you used that one last summer. That's a classic.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anything in store for this year?
No, you know, I think those usually come up pretty pretty late in the thought process. Usually when we get that first letter of reminding, like, hey, Players Weekend is a month from now, like, you probably should figure it out. That's when I start brainstorming. Last year, I was thinking of some sort of foods, that fit Minnesota. It was right around the state fair time, so we ended up with the corncob bat. This year we'll definitely have to do something different. We'll see where we end up.
I see the pencil bat behind you too. I think Brooks had a huge home run with the pencil bat. I feel like that's the staple of Players Weekend. Like every team has a guy that uses the pencil bat.
Yeah, 2 years ago, this is the one I used in Texas. I hit 2 homers with this bat, and it says instead of number 2 Ticonderoga, it's a number 2 homer bat. So I hit 2 homers in the same game with it.
Wow, that is amazing. So the Twins have quite a history with the pencil bat. We'll have to
Maybe
see.
We all just need to swing pencil bats this next time.
That's true. Yeah, whoever's slumping definitely gets the pencil bat when Players Weekend arrives. For sure. All right, let's get another fan question in here. Wyatt is great asks, does he have any favorite pitchers to catch, or maybe a pitcher who makes catching more interesting for him?
Yeah, every pitcher that I have to catch has its own quirks. Everybody has to be handled a little differently, and that's where really knowing your pitching staff comes into play. Knowing who they are, not just as a pitcher, what their stuff does, but who they are as a person, and understanding how you can bring the best of them out. The best pitchers to catch are the pitchers that are getting guys out. You can just tell when a pitcher's on a roll, and almost every big league pitcher gets on that roll. We talked about Mick Abel in that last start in Philly. That was a really fun game to catch. When Joe's punching guys left and right, and that's a fun game to catch. The harder games are when guys don't quite have their best stuff, and it's a little bit more work to pull the best of them out of them that day. And that's my job, is to whatever percentage they got. Maybe they're at 60% that day. I got to pull 100% of that 60% out of them. So whenever someone's dicing, that's always fun. Interesting. Some relievers always have their little quirks. Some relievers are kind of their own personality. Joe's always his own personality. But that's part of, like you said, the fun side of being a catcher.
That's a great answer. All right, let's see what we have coming up next here from the fans. Eric wants to know who has the best swag in the clubhouse. There's definitely some competition for this one.
Yeah. You can take swag a lot of different ways. If you're going for sheer like colors, you can go with Royce. Royce has always got his cute little matching sets. He matches his cleats to his elbow guards and his shin guard and his arm sleeves. I could never pull that off. That's like my level of swag is a different cool swag than what Royce does. Buxton's always got his custom cleats that are always really sick looking. Bader had his kind of down the Royce aisle of like, hey, a little more flashy, a little bit more exciting. And everyone kind of has their own levels, but those guys are definitely the ones that draw the attention.
Those were definitely some of the names that jumped into my head too.
Yeah.
Being in that Twins clubhouse, plenty of swagger throughout that entire clubhouse. I think
Absolutely.
We have time for one more question from the fans. Let's see what we got for the last one of the day. Julia Thompson, what is your favorite pregame or mid-game snack?
Yeah, if we're gonna just pick one thing, I'm crushing those little applesauce packets, the little squirt ones. But pregame, postgame, during the game, I always have a couple of those in my cooler in the dugout the whole game. So usually because those are easy to grab. Sometimes I'll forget to eat pregame or something. I'll grab a banana and a couple applesauces and run out there. I'm not a big, like some guys are like, yeah, I got to have chicken and rice or something very specific pregame. For me, it's just whatever they're serving, I'll grab a little bit of it and grab a couple applesauces for the game.
How common is it for guys to snack during the game? Because that was an interesting question. We see it sometimes, but I would imagine you're so focused on the game a lot of times you don't even think to grab a snack if you need it.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's kind of why I've started. I've just put them in my cooler, so whenever I go to drink, I kind of see an applesauce there, and say it's the third inning or something. Yeah, sure, I'll crush an applesauce. It's not really that I'm hungry, but it's good to kind of keep fueling your body, as you're going through the physical activity. Keeping adding that little bit of sugar and little calories to keep you going.
Yeah, especially with all the games and the hot summer temperatures, that stuff can creep on you for sure. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. We appreciate it. And I know myself and a lot of the folks here with the Twins and all the fans are excited to see you this weekend for Twins Fest.
Yeah, we're excited to get up there. It's going to be cold. Hopefully we don't have to go outside too much. But, that's Minnesota for you, right?
Yeah, plenty of indoor space here at Target Field. The heat will be cranked up and we'll be having a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you this weekend. Thanks, Ryan.
Sounds good. See you later.
Ryan Jeffers, our guest today on Inside Twins. Always fun catching up with him, and always a favorite in that Twins clubhouse from his teammates and the media. Always accommodating and has time for everybody, and always fun to catch up with. We appreciate him tuning in. Of course, Inside Twins will continue throughout the next few weeks. We'll have another guest next week coming off of Twins Fest. Of course, check out the Twins Winter Caravan locations if they're coming to a city near you. Be sure to say hello the next couple of days, and we hope you folks here in the Twin Cities that make the trip to Target Field this weekend have a blast here coming up this weekend. It's been another fun episode of Inside Twins. I'm John Vitas saying so long, and we will see you next week here on your home for Twins baseball.